It's like, let's just make fun of this. It's a pseudoscience, and people are just sort of using it as a predictive sort of, here's your daily horoscope, and you're compatible with Geminis. And that's not the whole chart. That's not the full picture.
You're just incredible. It's just that every time there's about 100 different questions I could ask you.
If we don't explore this, it's very easy to just get sucked into the indoctrination and the social engineering and just regurgitate what is being thrown upon us. But a lot of rewards in our society keep people locked into these negative patterns. And that's where the empowerment lies. Self-awareness, self-accountability, not being the victim. But we have to be that shift within ourselves. We have to win the war within ourselves. You are what you've been waiting for. You know, it's all within you. I don't use astrology for predictive stuff. It's more like a forecast of, here are the probabilities, here are the patternings. What are you going to decide? You know, instead of believing in this or believing in that, believe in you and trust yourself, because the planetary alignments and the intelligence of the cosmos and Mother Earth are taking us somewhere incredibly beautiful. So choose you, because your intuition and your higher guidance knows exactly who you are, why you came, and where to go.
So I am absolutely delighted today to have a very, very popular guest on my channel, but a new one for the Live, Love, Learn podcast. So Laura Eisenhower. Now, I'm just going to introduce Laura briefly, because this is a woman who is multi-talented, I tell you. For those of you that don't know Laura, she's a researcher, an author, and an excellent astrologer. She's an internationally acclaimed speaker. And as a great granddaughter of President Dwight Eisenhower, she's got such inside information about his administration that's been largely held in secret. And Laura, you're really considered to be one of North America's leading researchers and experts on health, exopolitics, alchemy, metaphysics, astrology, and galactic history. So a huge welcome to my channel. Thank you so much for taking the time to be here, because I know how busy you are. How are you doing today, Laura?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's so lovely. And, you know, times like this, well, we're going to have a good talk about astrology today, because this is an area that absolutely fascinates me for so many different reasons. Can we start off by finding a little bit, how did you get so into astrology? When did it become a passion for you?
I think I started to study it in high school. I was all into the I Ching and the Tarot, just trying to just figure myself out. And I really just got so fascinated by it. And when I was in relationships with people, and after I had my kids, then I'm like, "Ugh, I need to figure out what the patternings are, and what sort of individuals I'm with and working with on any level." It's just so fascinating, because it just reveals a tremendous amount. And just to see, like, is this really as legit as people say? It's been very kind of looked at as a pseudoscience and not taken very seriously. But I mean, I never really felt into that, but I wanted to have the firsthand experience. And when it really became obvious and clear, and I realized it was way more than some kind of predictive tool, which is not the reason I use it, but it really can point to, you know, health issues and pretty much every sector of your life. I'm like, this is really important to gain self-knowledge and awareness and be more mindful and conscious of how these energies are impacting one, so that you're not just on autopilot and just reactive or unconscious to patternings that might be like limiting your greater potential.
It's such a huge and fascinating area. I mean, I'm a very much beginner in it, but I just love all aspects of astrology. And you've hit on some really important points there already, Laura. Like how we've been brainwashed into thinking that it's pseudoscience, that, you know, it's just to predict who you're going to fall in love with and marry, etc. How much in your research and in your work that you've uncovered do you think that's a deliberate thing to put people off course? And how much do you think that most people could really benefit in their day-to-day lives by understanding more about their own astrology, but also astrology in general for the planet?
Yeah, I definitely think that was intentional. Ancient civilizations and even individuals that have more of a religious slant connected to them were actually very well versed in astrology. To understand astrology, you know, is to really understand how these planetary systems and energies and alignments impact your organs, impact your mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual bodies, because they're all based in elementals, and the nucleic acids of our DNA are elemental. So it's sort of like epigenetics. There's going to be certain transits and progressions that are going to activate certain areas of our chart, which is going to bring to life a part of us that is either coming to the surface to be healed or to be expressed. And if we don't explore this, it's very easy to just get sucked into the indoctrination and the social engineering and just regurgitate what is being thrown upon us, and to confuse what we're getting in the news as a reality or the human condition. And what we've been told, is a measure of success and value and worth, is very conditioned into us. So we really benefit looking at what it really means, because when you have anxiety or you're getting a download, are you able to embrace that, or are you afraid of it? Are you medicating it because it's creating tension in your body? Are you taught to think that there's something wrong with you when you're depressed, or are you really looking into what is the root of that? Where is that coming from? What is it trying to tell you? That's your intuition that's trying to guide you. So I feel that there's so many mechanisms in our society to suppress, control, and limit. And in understanding our chart, it's like, oh, wow, that uncomfortable feeling is actually taking me towards a breakthrough, an epiphany, a synchronicity that, you might have initially resisted because you were punished or just shut down or shut up. We don't have a lot of teachers and counselors that hold space for like starseed missions or understand those that come in with a different kind of intelligence you're not going to get from the schools. And to not have that option available is to literally put a stigma and cast a diagnosis on, certain individuals that have come to bring light to, these sort of things. And so the great epidemic is how this is become normalized, and it sort of means that these individuals and our own health and wellness and the deeper part of us that is wanting to come to the surface that might buy into this program is going to miss out. And that's where it's very interesting to look at how it impacts our health. Why are we such an unhealthy human race? There's just so much about just epidemics and cancer and degenerative diseases, Alzheimer's. I mean, all these things that really don't make much sense. But it does if we realize that we are living in a very limited DNA expression that is encouraged very much and is being very targeted in our food, our water, in pharmaceuticals, in geoengineering, and just all the power structures and what streams through those power structures in order to keep us disempowered so that we look outside of ourselves for answers, for a savior, for a cure. And to really understand the self is to begin to unlock ways to regenerate, ways to heal, ways to have breakthroughs, and remove these programs so that we can live in alignment with our truth, with our higher awareness, with our intuition, which our body thrives when it's circulating that energy. So astrology, I really feel like, will help to deprogram people and help them to realize the forces that are available that are inside of you to begin to unlock, to remove the Saturn squares by understanding where you need boundaries instead of where you would comply to tyrannical authority or something that has pushed you into a corner, limiting you and causing you to believe that you're not capable of manifesting more in your life.
Honestly, I'm just completely blown away by that already, because you expressed yourself so beautifully and there's so much to unpick in that. And one of the things I wanted to ask you about, Laura, and I don't know if you see this, is about how any tool can be used for the good or the bad. And something like astrology, we can see so much power in how it can be used on an individual level, on a collective consciousness level. But equally, I personally see a lot of people use it almost as a limiting power in terms of explaining reasons why things are going wrong in their lives, almost from a victim mentality. How do you see that playing out? What sort of words of wisdom have you got so that people are using it to empower themselves, not to disempower themselves?
Yeah. I mean, the thing is, you can't allow it to make excuses for you, like it's separate from you and it's doing it to you. It's a part of you. And there's different levels of how we experience the planetary energies. Every planet's got its shadow side or different levels of like frequency expression. Like the dark sort of inverted Saturn is tyrannical, controlling, manipulative, abusive, narcissistic. You know, when you bring in maybe a Mars, you know, ego, negative ego, wants to control others. And when you become aware of that, or you're facing an individual like that in your life, is it, well, I got this in my chart, so, you know, you're kind of victimized. It's like, no, it's like that's something that you're here to experience so that you can begin to move into the higher levels of those energetics. Whether that means you have a boundary and realize, okay, they easily plug into this part of me, and this is in my chart where there's easy access, maybe a trauma, maybe a wound, maybe you're an empath. So, okay, that's empowering. Now you know what you're dealing with. If you're the person that wants to overcome negative ego tendencies, instead of blaming your chart or just being on autopilot and allowing it to continue, whether that's an ancestral pattern or a programming you've adopted or something that you emulated from the television growing up, or it's a past life that you're bringing through that you haven't sorted out. It's like, whoa, okay, you can catch yourself. Like, wow, moving that energy into a higher form of expression would be, okay, not to use certain planets as an example, but maybe that would be helpful for people. Okay, so say we are talking about a Mars square Saturn, or a Mars conjunct Saturn. The square would be more of a blockage that would create a need to break down that oppressive program and sometimes be rageful, or to limit oneself and internalize that anger, and that anger can consume a person. So how do you work with that if these planets aren't getting along? Basically, Saturn can become a boundary. Saturn can become something that you ground and anchor because it rules a lot of structure. What are you passionate about that you want to do in the world? Saturn connects to Capricorn and career and life path, responsibilities and disciplines and structure. Where does that Mars energy want to create something that it can ground and then like work within in order to be maybe a leader in your field, maybe to do something pioneering in, you know, something that you'll build a structure around. Maybe you'll become a builder, maybe an architect. Maybe you'll create new structures and take out the old because you know all too well what those programmings can do, because it's been detrimental for you, your relationships, your health, and your sanity eventually, because it'll catch up, right? But a lot of rewards in our society keep people locked into these negative patterns because it's like it's encouraged. So if we can just like look at it and check ourselves and realize, you know, the damage that it's doing, we can be like really empowered and begin to look in the direction of where the growth periods are helping to initiate us into a much, much higher expression. And the aspects that we're born under change. You know, it doesn't mean the natal chart goes away, but we have progressions, you know, based in the different developmental phases we go through. We progress and we move through different phases of life. And where those energies are very interesting to look at in a chart, and also the transits, where are the planets currently. So you can see a person just absolutely take one of the most difficult charts and come out like, wow, you know, a healer, a teacher, a guide, an author, you know, somebody who has rediscovered their creative potential, and overcome the voices of limitation that they've mistaken for their own voice, because they can see in their chart that didn't actually come from me. That came from my father. That came from my, you know, angry mother. And, you know, and then you can look at the North and South node. What did you come in with? What is your soul wanting to integrate in this lifetime? So then you can begin to differentiate what is you versus what has come from outside of you that got into your space. And where can you utilize the parts of it that were helpful and discard and release, and deprogram the parts that are confining you to an existence that doesn't fulfill the fullness of all that you can possibly be. And that's where the empowerment lies. Self-awareness, self-accountability, not being the victim, not blaming the planets, realizing they connect with our organs, our endocrine system, our nervous system, every organ of our body, from feet to head, Aries to Pisces, that this is the key to unlocking a lot of dis-ease on a mental, physical, emotional, and spiritual level. The water, emotions; the earth, physical body; air, our thought forms; water, our emotions. If I didn't say that, fire, our, you know, our life force, our passion, right? So society like wants to keep us in the inversions, right? So there are a lot of psyops that are created based in the planetary alignment. So that would be the misuse of astrology, understanding the occult and using it as a weapon against people because they don't know. They're not
Yeah.
encouraged to. It's like, let's just make fun of this. It's a pseudoscience, and people are just sort of using it as a predictive sort of, here's your daily horoscope, and you're compatible with Geminis. And that's not the whole chart. That's not the full picture. And that's just enough to make it just fun and for entertainment, right? While they're utilizing this occult knowledge and creating psyops and false flags and fake news to hijack the growth period that it really represents for us. And what that does, it throws us into survival. It throws us into like spreading these mind viruses of propaganda, false narratives, divide and conquer, you know, and wearing these labels and just being, you know, in this personality matrix that is being very, very like engineered and using certain tactics to cause us to consent and agree to it because it plays on our dreams and our fears. So we got to step back and just be like, wait a second, you know. And I think that when 2019, 2020 hit with the Pluto, Jupiter, Saturn conjunction, when it was the time of, you know what, it became a really, really big choice for individuals to determine whether they're going to go along with the narrative and be tyrannical and push this on people, or they were going to take that skill and ability that they learned in university or schools and direct it towards something beneficial that would stay in alignment with their integrity. And this is where we're seeing a bifurcation and a letting go of a lot of this inverted paradigm matrix controls mechanisms. Not throwing out the baby with the bathwater either, but we really could utilize this tool right now to navigate these times.
Oh, we so could. And it's so interesting because I'm seeing at the moment this lack of self-awareness, and you can see how crucial it is that all this information has been hidden and inverted. So I've got a couple of questions for you. Firstly, before I forget to ask this one, the ether. So we know that the ether was removed from the periodic table. We know that it's something that's not allowed to be spoken about much. How does that fit into astrology and the other signs like earth, fire, water, air?
Right. So when you look at the pentagram, the fifth element pointing up is the ether. When you look at the inverted pentagram, that is the symbolic representation of, like, I want to be careful with my words, but satanism.
Yeah.
And so you got like the horns and you got the ether energy going into the ground, and the reversal technologies, the planetary reversal grid technologies were installed in the planetary grid network to put things in a reversal spin and to particularly target the dodecahedron platonic solid connected to ether and spin it in a direction where it would not be available, which means that it's the toxicity of our world is very, very difficult to clear out of our system because
Yeah.
it really represents the breath of light, the mother energy, the mitochondrial DNA, the energy that the mitochondrial DNA provides, and how it's a purifying factor in our beings. That mitochondrial DNA has been damaged. Our connection with the true mother energy has been sort of ripped away from us. And this false sort of dark mother reversal energy, disguised in religion, disguised in all sorts of ways, rewritten texts to not really help us to connect, has been why it's not been included. I mean, the sun star to move through the 13th sign of Fiacus in 2010. That's ruled by the ether. The 13th sign is connected to the mother. The grounding and anchoring of the mother energy really took place in 2010. And so that movement into the 13th sign is representative of that. And it's also representative of healing of the fallen angelics and the redemption of that. Because if we've fallen into negative ego and we're in agreement or consenting to those energies, then we're fallen ourselves. We're in negative ego, we're living in inversion. So it's an opportunity to really, you know, step it up, breathe in that breath of life, which they're targeting. I will and really like embrace that energy that's bringing balance within ourselves. You know, the mother, father, the Christ Sophia divine template, you know, resolving the dark technologies that have kept us out of balance. And when I say like through religion, I'm not saying that it's all negative, but it's been very patriarchal. And so this reversal energy has unplugged significant areas in the ley lines connected to sacred union, the electric magnetic energies of mother, father. in sacred sites in England, particularly Stonehenge and the Mary Michael lines, and just like what's been wiped out as far as, you know, the teachings of the Essenes and the true gospel of peace, which is all about mother being law, you know, and it's not in scripture where you're going to find, you know, God and purification and healing and redemption. You're going to find it in nature. You're going to, you know, find it in how the elements, you know, are capable of clearing away this toxicity and creating purification and creating, you know, the ability to wash away sin, wash away disease, the love of the mother, the unconditional love, you know, not separate from the Father. And so that's very interesting to read in the Gospel of Peace, the acknowledgement of the mother, which people don't talk about. And that is the breath of life, the quintessence, the fifth element, the ether. The mitochondrial DNA is now healing in people. So our capacity to heal and purify is a lot stronger than it's ever been. And it's not because we're waking up. It's also because the geophysics of the planet have moved into a certain position with the galactic cores of Milky Way and Andromeda to begin to open up these stargates in a way that is spinning them in a circulatory energy that is regenerative, which is in alignment with what's going on within our own physical bodies. Grid workers have created the corrections, the Venus transits, the movement of the sun through the 13th sign. This is why this has been a prophesized date, because it's the end of a 26,000-year cycle. The last one was the fall of Atlantis, and the beings that wanted to take control, that were limiting themselves by compromising their DNA to be the controllers, did not want genetic healing to take place. So when that opportunity arose for, you know, humans to advance themselves and begin to repair the DNA architecture of the tree of life through the root races and the 5 cloister races, instead they manipulated our DNA and we got cut off, and now it's been called junk, and we've just been incarnating with amnesia, and they've been taking advantage of that. So yeah.
Oh God, you're just incredible. It's just that every time there's about 100 different questions I could ask you. So let's talk about the so-called junk DNA and the incarnating with amnesia, because the incarnating with amnesia has never really made sense to me, you know, about, so what can you tell us about where that came from, and how can we get that knowledge back, because it's inside of all of us, but again, so suppressed and ridiculed at the moment.
Well, if there's seals and fences in our DNA, then when we are facing like a gatekeeper in our life or some sort of obstacle in our life, it's an opportunity to begin to dissolve these fences and these blockages, and also to unscramble, you know, these fire codes through just living a life of being soul-centered. You know, that's what's going to help you to find your soulmates and your soul family, you know, instead of just trying to keep up with, you know, the world of appearances and the friends that you were raised with and what your parents want from you and what society wants from you. You know, that all stands in the way. So we're given everything we could possibly need to wake up in our life experience, but we're not taught to process it or relate to it in a way that serves us or helps us or heals us. In fact, these experiences tend to define us in a dualistic sort of way. Like, that's a failure, that's a success, that's misfortune, you're a failure, you're, you know, and, you know, all these, you know, different things. So about 5,500 years ago, the Sumerian Egypt invasion was the final setback where the loss of our galactic memories really took place. And the Anunnaki, as our creator gods of humanity, was really promoted, but they carried a lot of imposter names. So nobody would be like, you know, oh, that's Anunnaki, right? Or, oh, wow, these ancient texts have been manipulated by Anunnaki, the Emerald Tablets, Bible, even the sutras. I mean, just more than we can imagine, right? The true freedom teachings, or, you know, understanding of our true galactic history was completely wiped. So much was wiped. And then we're dealing with sort of tree of knowledge, duality, but it's about gaining self-knowledge to rebuild our DNA, or to switch on what's dormant, which is a better way to put it, of the tree of life template, of that divine blueprint. So we are given everything we could possibly need, because nature is encoded to know how to heal, to rehabilitate, to create homeostasis, equilibrium, and balance. Anytime, you know, something gets injured, there's an automatic response to heal it. Every time something dies, it's reborn, it regenerates, it lives on, but in a different form. in a human experience, without losing the physical body, the different form might be you have more vitality, you're more clear, you've released things that don't serve you, you've gone through that dark night of the soul, you recognize your higher awareness, you're now more empowered to manifest your own reality instead of fear your dark and allow controller forces to birth false narratives and programmings through your creative vessel by infecting your creative channels. So the final sort of insult was like 5,500 years ago. 26,000 years ago were when the reversal grid technologies were put in place, which are a part of the engineering of artificial timelines that we battery up with our loosh, with our life force, with where we consent and comply and give our power away. There's harvesting tanks, which relate to the black cube and Saturn, and on and on. It's just like, whoa, it's like, I'm a little rabbit hole exhausted with, you know, like I'm sure a lot of people are with like, gosh, we just don't learn this stuff. So this is when the 5,500 years ago is when they began to rewrite human history. And they're continuing to do this with the utilization of very advanced technologies. And this is a huge part of my mission and work is my relation to my great-grandfather. The false narratives and the false history connected to his administration have been very, very important to uncover because of how that has impacted timelines and where we really stand with what took place after the Second World War. It's been very important to bring to the table. But anyway, the final setback 5,500 years ago meant no communication with the Christos races, understanding of our divine blueprint, and we're just born, we're not remembering, so we're put into schools and we're told what to do. And obviously there's different traditions and different cultures, different languages, but the whole idea is that we don't come together in unity consciousness, because if we were to, we would be switching on and helping each other light up those dormant strands. So there's been genocides, Holocaust, world wars, and all sorts of attempts to create so much historical trauma that when it's time for us all to unify and come together, we're all going to be fighting. We're all going to be like destroying ourselves because of the damage that's been done in this last cycle of 26,000 years of really, really dark human history.
Yeah, and we can see it playing out so much, can't we, Laura, at the moment? I mean, you've only got to go on any social media and see the anger and how easily people are triggered and how unwilling they are to accept anything that's outside their immediate sense of reality or what keeps them exactly where they are. And it can be quite challenging to sort of think, wow, I mean, one of my things that I love trying to do is really helping people, helping animals, but trying to get messages across to break through these boxes that people have put themselves in or been put in can be so challenging. How are you seeing it playing out at the moment in terms of how, let's call it, the evil powers that be are actually really going full force at the moment to keep people in that sense of disempowerment? I just wanted to say that today's episode is sponsored by ASEA redox signaling molecules. Now, it comes in two forms, the liquid and the gel, plus there's a huge other product range for us. But why did I start taking ASEA, and why is it now an integral part of something that my whole family, both four-legged and two-legged, take every single day? Plus also something that all the clients I work with, again, four-legged and two-legged, it's number one on my priority list. Well, part of what I do, what I'm passionate about, is understanding the challenges that are affecting each and every one of us in today's modern living. The more you know, the more sometimes you wish you didn't know, but the pollution in the air, in the water, in the food, the control of our minds, the propaganda. But one of the things that we can do is take back responsibility for our own health. Now, every single cell of our body, whether we're an animal, whether we're one of the dogs in the backgrounds or one of my plants, contain these redox signaling molecules, and cellular health and cellular communication is absolutely key, whether you want to get your body back in balance, whether you want to reverse the aging process, whether you want to address any particular challenges that you've got physically, emotionally. It all starts with healthy cells. If your liver cells are healthy, your liver's healthy. If your brain cells are healthy, your brain's healthy. But just like a mobile phone, most of us have got mobile phones that we we use on a routine basis now. But that mobile phone, regardless of whether you've got the latest model, is completely useless without a signal. So what does this technology do? The gel is something that you can apply topically over particular areas of concern, whether you want your skin to look better, whether you've got a cellulite, whether you've got an area that's causing you a challenge. The liquid is something you drink each and every day to top up what should be in your cells anyway. But when our bodies are stressed, diseased, challenged, or as we age, we make less of them. So personally, I wouldn't be without it. My sleep's better, my energy levels are better, my mood's better, my mobility's better. If you want to find out more, the details are below. But I'm so grateful that this came into my life, and I'm so grateful I can share it with others. I hope you love it as much as I do. Let me know.
Yeah, I mean, because it's being amped up because the awakening is like so strong. I mean, the activations coming through the planetary energies that are internal within us, you know, because of our life experience, because we're in a timing where what's happening in the astrological alignments is happening inside of us, and we're all experiencing it in different ways, but it's meant to all come together in harmony, you know, in unity, to embrace like our differences. So Chiron rules the Ophiuchus 13th sign, which is connected with the ether element. So Chiron is the wounded healer. Chiron is all about wounds. For us to experience this ether energy and purification, we have to come to terms with our wounds to be able to receive the unconditional love of the mother and heal the mitochondrial DNA and begin to switch on these dormant aspects. So with the North Node being in Aries, with Mars and Chiron being in Aries, and how they've all been very, very close to each other, and the North Node and South Node, which are impacted by the eclipses, this represents the growth period of humanity right now. And because Chiron can be easily taken advantage of, there's a lot of trigger events and a lot of manipulations through social media to cause people to really like get triggered and then look outside of themselves to join a movement, to carry a label, to align with a political party, to defend something when they don't really realize they're defending an aspect of the game being played. Because we really should not be, you know, pit against each other. We should not like have some of these so-called, you know, movements that seem forward thinking put us in a victim mentality and a blame, shame, victim game dynamic with one another. And this is what these funded movements have done. Even feminism and New Age and the hippie movement were targeted, you know. So every time there's like a huge leap of awakening or a growth period in humanity, it's like, okay, well, how can we hijack that and steer that energy into a direction that is going to be harmful? So they know that we're coming to terms with our wounds, and in coming to terms with our wounds, you know, we can move in the direction of healing. We can move in the direction of uncovering real cures that are connected with herbs and Mother Nature and things that don't produce horrific side effects and that don't shut us down further. We can explore different tools and modalities, ancient practices, indigenous cultures and plant medicines and astrology and medical astrology, sound healing, and all these things that people are doing. But as far as mainstream society is concerned and what you see on television, I mean, I always check in at the hotels. I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot even believe these commercials. That's not what people are getting, but that exists right under their noses. And so obviously they're losing their grip because it's getting so clear and obvious. But a lot of people are getting more and more assimilated in because they're losing more and more connection with their intuition and their higher self, because they're dropped down into their lower chakras constantly by all these different tactics. Because when we're wounded, it's very easy to go into attack mode. Like, I want to hurt you, I'm hurt, or I'm right, you're wrong. And that Mars energy becomes warlike. It's expressing itself in its shadow side, because when we're wounded, we're very vulnerable to not being at our best. But when we can look at that and feel empowered by it and not shameful of it and be like, wow, okay, this is coming up, I'm triggered, it's probably not you, it's me, but let's like talk it out. That's what I'm like with my husband, right? Like, you know, you got to be with people that you can do that with, and friends that you can do that with, and cut each other a lot of slack, not blame the dark technology, the bioweapons and the psyops, but just to say, whoa, you know, it got the best of me here. I kind of bought into that program, or that happened to me when I was a child, and, you know, I'm still carrying this trauma and I need to heal it, right? So, you know, working with people that really have your back, that don't want you to be dependent on them, that really want to see you thrive and be just the fullness of all that you can be, and to just live a beautiful life. You know, we have to be very discerning, you know, who is beneficial in our lives and who is taking advantage of us. And that's where we can really utilize this Chiron energy and realize that that is connected to the ether, the mother, the unconditional love, because the mother wants to nurture those wounds, to show us that we're not being punished for our mistakes, for our wounds, for our like shortfalls, shortcomings, or whatever you want to say, that we can bring it to light to be healed. Now, what about those that have done serious crimes?
Yeah.
And deeper crimes against humanity? Have they been mind controlled? Is there trauma-based mind controlled? Have they been implanted? Is some sort of frequency skull, mind skull, what is it, technology, infiltrating that person's consciousness? Are there demonic attachments? What is their family energy like? You know, we need to understand what we're dealing with, because so many walk amongst us that are from, you know, these families, have been recruited into 20 and back, have been through MK Ultra programs, or carrying altars, or just easily manipulated because they've inhaled or eaten or taken enough things inside their body that puts them in a vulnerable place of taking commands and having voices in their head and doing things that they otherwise would not do. So we need to reconstruct our society in order to accommodate the weaponry and weaponization of the human, and how that is creating more dysfunction and more insanity and more sickness and unwellness and criminal activity than we've ever seen. So we need to address it from the root down, to get to the bottom of how to like really heal this. You know, if they can mind control a perfectly good person to become an assassin, you could probably take that same individual and bring them back through maybe using that technology in a good way, through sound healing, working with frequency, working with positive suggestion, amplifying and like lighting up parts of the brain that will begin to bring emotionality back. You know, if they can turn you into a criminal, they can, I think, turn somebody around that has done evil acts. And that's what I'm hoping for, with some kind of benevolent disclosure that relates to healing tools and modalities that I know already exist, that people work with.
Absolutely fantastic. How do you think, Laura, in terms of the collective consciousness, about how this is all playing out in the connection consciousness, and not just with humans? It's so interesting. My cat is desperate. One of my cats desperately trying to get into the conversation. So we're seeing obviously a huge knock-on effect on all of the animal kingdom, on Earth itself, on the plants, on the soil. What can we do to actually start turning this around? Because it's having such an impact outside humanity on this planet. It's heart-wrenching to see, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and this is really, you know, the 3D realm. There's a much, much bigger picture. And I think, you know, it gets amplified when you begin to notice it's there, or a person is so unconscious to it that they can't even admit it's there, right? Like the spraying of the skies. Oh, no, they're not doing that. This is not happening. Or this is just, you know, climate change. And this is, you know, just all these cover stories that are not looking at geoengineering, not looking at chemistry, you know, not looking at all these other factors, and ways that they can engineer certain events and accelerate storms and steer them into certain places. And right, it's like, how can you control Mother Earth? Well, you can't. But if you can control humanity, or the mind of a person, and we're elemental beings, you know, if that's happening on a massive scale, we're going to see a reflection of that happening in nature, because we are nature. Our soul matrix is nature: earth, air, fire, water, ether. So if we're noticing the elementals being impacted, our inner elementals are being impacted. So I feel for us to clear, you know, the environment, and to heal the waters, the air, the earth, the fires, assist the animals and the plants and all of nature around us, we need to be more soul-centered. We need to deprogram. We need to clear and purify ourselves, because we are, you know, a reflection. It's all like reflecting the health of the collective. And when we begin to move beyond that and begin to look at these things as a reminder of how powerful we are and how powerful nature is, you know, we'll begin to notice that as we're empowered and the earth is clearing itself from this toxicity and imbalance and assault, that it holds the greater power, and that's the ether, the power of spirit, holds dominion over physical matter. The inversions and the loss of mother energy in the planetary core is what made it so easy to control everything, because literally, like Lisa Renee puts it, we've been like existing on a corpse. The life force energy and how the harvesting methods have really put us in sort of a simulation. And to that extent, I believe that that concept is true, but that's not the end all be all. There's an organic system, there's a true planetary grid network, and a higher earth energy where the elementals are not in toxicity. We're not in toxicity. We're not in lower strands of DNA. We're not holding polluted waters, mind-controlled minds, inverted fire energy that causes us to lash out and be angry at one another, or degrading and degenerative physical vessels that are aging really fast and suffering all kinds of diseases and ailments. So once we get a grip on that, I feel the earth responds to us, and we'll begin to notice, whoa, things are cleaning up, things are changing, we're ascending, right? But we have to be that shift within ourselves. We have to win the war within ourselves to even begin to perceive that that timeline exists. And the thing is, it exists whether we are there and participating or not. It's just, are we going to be so diverted, distracted, and further toxified and assimilated into the AI to never experience the wonders of the power of the true essence of what this earth holds? So, we see one that is being attacked, but if we're, like hooked into ourselves being attacked and victimized, we're just going to see, how that becomes a phantom earth, and it's not even functioning in an organic way. So that's the whole idea of phantom earth and, a dead system that relies on technology to have a life force. And that is sort of where this new world or agenda is, trying to take people. It cannot exist on that organic ascension timeline. It can only take as many with them as possible because they're a sinking ship. And in that sinking ship, they want to feed on the life force of humans because they lost their direct connect with source. That's the only life cycle they have. So that's kind of the way I see it. But
yeah, it's that parasitic cycle that we're caught in. So at the moment, what are you most excited and hopeful about, and what are you most concerned about when you look at things that are happening more on a global scale?
I'm excited about the people that are coming together that are just really working in like unity consciousness, that just really are supportive and have each other's back, that are not into the guru complex or the savior complex, that really value the inner gifts and treasures that every single person holds. And just the rehabilitation of it all, the building of new institutions that we create on our own terms, where we're really guiding our children to be the fullness of all that they came here to be. That we are stepping up and being true guardians and stewards of Mother Earth, nature, and future generations, and doing it in a way that we know is what we're here to do. We're answering to our inner calling. We're answering to our higher self. We are developing this more and more every day and moving through these incredible growth periods and accessing more of our gifts and abilities. What concerns me is a lot of individuals that are still infected, that don't see it, that want to create more damage and destruction. And also those that feel they don't have the ability to come forward and say, I was blackmailed, I was manipulated, I'm running an altar. I mean, if people can be like a Kathy O'Brien who have gone through that, the world's going to be a much better place. And there's already examples of these individuals in the world that have escaped their captors that are thriving now. So my concern is that, there's going to be too much hatred, or this is the enemy, we have to kill them, and not enough understanding of how they've been victimized and tortured and trauma-based, mind-controlled. And that's not going to help us in these times, is to cast them as the enemy, that we need to focus on rehabilitation so that the dark lords and the ones that are doing this and perpetuating it stand out, and the beings connected to that begin to get starved, so they completely remove themselves from this planet. And a lot of things that Eisenhower set up in his administration have been a part of the positive military branches that are doing this, but we are the most important aspect of this, because they're not going to do it alone. They're not going to save the day unless we step up And we support those efforts by, not allowing the tactic of targeting unity consciousness, sacred union, and our own ability to look in these uncomfortable levels and layers of what this so-called reality is. I kind of like losing my thought there, but you know what I mean, right?
Absolutely. And I'm so pleased you said that, because this, um, as it was famously said by whoever is up for debate, you can't change it, you can't solve a problem from the reality that created it. And with this, all this anger that's coming out, that never forgive, never forget attitude about everything, that's just only going to keep us in this dark hole and this dark place. And it is definitely concerning. And one of the things I want to ask you about is on a personal level, because you've got such wealth of knowledge in such a breadth of areas, Laura, is how do we as individuals, and how do you as an individual cope with this, wanting to really hold the space, hold the energy, do the inner work, but still be aware and almost a warning beacon for the traps that are constantly being set for humanity?
Oh, how to balance both,
Yeah,
being out there and doing this work and seeing the traps. And it's not very easy because there's so much targeting, and I deal with it all the time. Even people within this circle of disclosure community, there's so
yeah,
much division. There's so much that, like, you can't talk to this person and this, and a lot of the old paradigm model of, um, I'm right, you're wrong, serve me and follow me, and yeah, everybody else is this, and it's just, oh, I mean, I just have to step back. I have to, like, make sure I'm taking care of me and I'm protecting my energy field. I'm getting enough rest, and I don't take things personally. I find neutrality. I'm not attached to what people think of me. I mean, I do my best, take it or leave it. You don't have to, follow my material for me to love you. Like,
mm,
or, I mean, it's just, I'm just rooting for each and every human to live a healthy and beautiful life, and utilize the tools that I've come to understand in order to assist. And when I see the traps, I'll be a resource. I'll point them out. I'll share and make that available and not push it on people.
mm,
Um, but if there's receptivity and there's an opportunity, yes, I want to share this resource. But that love is more important than anything. Whatever you've decided, whoever you voted for, whatever you chose to do, that's not going to be a reason for me to not respect you and not to love you. Like, there's total compassion and understanding of what we've been up against and how difficult it is for people to wrap their head around it. I
mm.
compare it to, like, seeing a best friend with an abuser, that they're ignoring the red flags. They can't handle it yet. They're in love. They think that person loves them. So just patience, compassion, and choosing love above all things, because to me, that is the essence of ether, the alchemical substance of unconditional love, forgiveness, and the breath of life, the Holy Spirit. That's the override frequency that is above all these dark technologies. That if we can maintain that frequency, then we will realize that we emit that vibration, that frequency out to others, and it begins to dismantle the weaponry, because we're actually working with each other on a soul to soul level, instead of talking to each other's programmings or
Yeah.
decision making, or being in the judgment and the you're sheeple and I'm better than you and da 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 da. It's like, I just choose love above all things and respect. And I try and have boundaries where that's not showing up as best as I possibly can. And I don't want to say that, like, oh yeah, it's all, like, the rehabilitation is more about those that are willing. We got to protect our children from the pedophiles. We've got to do all that we can to call out these crimes against humanity, and hold those responsible accountable, but also rehabilitate those that have been under the spell and that have not been running an energetic that is authentic to who they really are. That's what I meant about that. But yeah, so being like an advocate, and just encouraging a greater awareness in the things that have been operating behind the scenes, and to dispel the myth of it all being conspiracy theory by writing this book and sharing my own experience, and hoping that people will have an open mind to it, as difficult as it is. There's no shame, you don't need to hold on, like, to these ego attachments, because you don't need to adopt something outside of yourself. You know, this is about something you're going to discover within yourself. This is a reunion with something much deeper that exists already within. You know, it's just, don't give that precious ability and talent and skill and life force away to these monsters that are not in service to humanity. Redirect it in service to humanity, and bring those gifts and abilities to the community so that we can all work together and we will thrive. Yeah.
Yeah, just beautiful. And I'm so with you on there. It's just been, I've had to step back from so much of what I was doing because to protect those boundaries and step out of the division, because it doesn't get any of us anywhere. In fact, it takes us right back to where we started from. So you provide a lot of different services to people. So talk us through the resources about how people can connect with you, what services you offer. You've got a book, haven't you?
Yes, it's called Awakening the Truth Frequency, and it's really about being true to yourself and not being afraid of, you know, the things that are coming up in you. Give it expression. Don't be afraid of the people that you're going to lose along the way. I mean, it's about understanding our dormant DNA and what dark technologies have been used and what this ascension window is all about, and a lot about our galactic history and why this is such a profound window. And again, definitely going into things about my great grandfather, and I share a lot about my own personal life journey. And my hope and intention with the book is to just really ignite the passion inside the person to really know that there's so much to look forward to, and you are the good news. You are you are what you've been waiting for. You know, it's all within you. And when you find that, it's so much easier to come together with people and not feel threatened or, you know, you're right, they're wrong. There's a certain confidence that comes with truth. You don't mind the tough questions. You don't mind if somebody doesn't see it the same way, because it works for you and it makes you healthy. And you can appreciate how somebody else is coming to their own personal truth in their own way if it makes them happy and healthy. But at least we're in agreement that we live in integrity, we have mutual love and respect, and we all want the same things: health and well-being, and, you know, positive, healthy relationships and family, and abundance, not necessarily through the money system at all, maybe in a different way, but that we can harmonize and rebuild this and reawaken all these dormant strands in embracing our differences, like musical instruments that are learning to play together instead of beat each other over the head because we are bringing something different to the table. This is a blessing, not something to divide us. And so, yeah, it's a whole lot of stuff in there.
And where can we get the book?
So it's on Amazon. So just look up Awakening the Truth Frequency, Laura Eisenhower. And then my website's cosmicgaia.org. I do astrology readings, and I do all sorts of astrology readings. I have a subscription. I do Zoom calls. I do discounted sessions and check-ins for people that have urgencies or just need a quick reading or a check-in. And I usually do that outside of the calendar. Like once we form a connection, then, you know, I will help you to get, you know, something in more of a timely way than you would see on the calendar. So I just try and make it like really worth the person's while. And yeah, I really love helping people to ignite what they're, you know, really here to do, and just seeing the results and the changes in people's lives has been really beautiful. So you can check that out. And most of the events that I'll be doing are on my website.
Absolutely brilliant. Now, as always, all Laura's links are going to be below. I know some people that have had personal readings with Laura, and the feedback was absolutely phenomenal. I'm going to be booking one, Laura. I know you're a busy lady. It was fantastic, the information you share, Laura. You've got such a depth of understanding and such a beautiful way of expressing yourself. Thank you so much for sharing everything today. I really hope that I can encourage you to come back. Is there anything else that you want to share before we finish off for today?
Well, I've really enjoyed talking to you. I love the questions. And yeah, there's a lot of conferences and events coming up. So it's really great to come together in person. I'll just share one real quick. It's called Full Disclosure Now. It's in St. Pete, Florida. I need to update my website. I'm going to do that actually right after we get off the call. So when people check out my website, you can check out the events. But beyond like just sharing about that, no matter what we see outside of us in the world, you know, just remember that we win the war within, and it's really a consciousness war. And it's really just wanting to suck your energy into believing in something that will cause you to enable a future that you don't need to be a part of. It's really important that we give ourselves a massive break from all that's coming through our devices, all that's coming through media, and even just the predictive stuff. I don't use astrology for predictive stuff. It's more like a forecast of, here are the probabilities, here are the patternings. What are you going to decide, right? So if we're hearing all these different scenarios of what might possibly be, it's good to know, but what are you going to decide? You know, instead of believing in this or believing in that, believe in you and trust yourself, because the planetary alignments and the intelligence of the cosmos and Mother Earth are taking us somewhere incredibly beautiful. So choose you, because your intuition and your higher guidance knows exactly who you are, why you came, and where to go.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you so much for your time today. I could literally talk to you for hours. Everyone who's been watching us, thank you so much for joining us. Let us know your comments below. Let us know what else you want to hear from us on. And most importantly, go and get to know yourself as much as you possibly can. Thank you so much, Laura.
Thank you so much. And love the parts that might not feel lovable. That's the unconditional love of the mother and yourself.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Bye. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And if you feel inspired, please do share with your friends and family. This helps us spread the word and also helps me encourage some exciting new guests to take part in this podcast. And above all, stay curious and stay free.